And now, police artist Betty Clark introduces us to a new weapon in the fight against crime. A computer that cares.
I'm a trained artist, and my husband Jim is a cop, district chief with the Metropolitan Toronto Police Force. In 1985, he worked in missing children. And when you have kids of your own, it makes you paranoid. You want to do everything you can to find them. I've been drawing children's portraits for 30 years, but I was aware of how quickly children grow and change and become almost unrecognizable from the way they looked as toddlers. That's a big problem for police and parents alike, because the longer a child is missing, the harder they are to find. I had studied child physiognomy and anatomy, as well as anthropometrics, which is the study of the measurements of growth. One day, Jim brought home pictures of a boy and a girl who'd been missing for several years. He asked me to age them, to redraw the faces as they might be today, in each case almost 10 years after they went missing. It was something nobody had ever done before, and it took me most of the summer to do the work, but as luck would have it, we found them both. Knowing that aging photos had had some success, Jim went to IBM Canada and asked them if they had a computer that could do this. Of course they didn't, but they saw the potential and jumped at the chance to get involved. With the help of Rich Helms, one of their computer geniuses, I helped create a system called the Computer Assisted Recovery Enhancement System, CARES for short. It allows an artist the freedom to not only cut and paste facial features on a computer screen, but then blend the images by drawing right on the screen using a stylus and tablet. I guess there's a science to aging children, but it's more dependent on the artist's instincts and talents. The system Rich Helms and his team designed lets me bring an artist's sensitivities to the work. Once we had the system developed, I came to work in the Toronto Police Forensic Identification Services Division. From the beginning, the program was a success. My first drawings had taken about 80 hours per child, but with the computer, I could now do it in 2 or 3. Joey Alton was 2 when he went missing in December 1979. He'd been abducted from his mother's home in Kelowna, British Columbia. The prime suspect was his estranged father, who had also disappeared without a trace. In 1988, his mother requested an update of his photo, and Child Find sent the information to me. A lot of photos come to us in a situation like this, the child's moms and dads, aunts, uncles, and grandparents. I use the relatives' pictures for information. Some families tend to go wider, some tend to go long and lean. I use that as the growing pattern. But I keep the child separate to develop his own features. I use their own eyes, nose, mouth. No matter what the picture may be like, it was as close as I could get to the real person, a person who was now 12. I finished the drawing, and the age-enhanced photo was then placed on a poster and distributed by Child Find. In November of 1990, a man arrived at the Vancouver airport from Australia and saw the poster. He went to the authorities and said, "I just saw that boy with his father in Australia." The RCMP, Interpol, and the Australian police found him. He was 14 when his mother finally got him back home, and that's what it's all for. It was wonderful. We then expanded our system to trace a skeleton found in 1988. It was covered in a tarpaulin that had been weighted down with a parking lot curbstone. The coroner said it was as clean as if he'd cleaned it himself. I entered the photograph and began to draw on top of it. I drew in the muscles, drew in the eyeballs, the nose, the cartilage, and gradually built it up. There was nothing left of the nose but a hole, so I triangulated from the bridge of the nose to the lower nasal bone and then averaged it so that it fit the width and the length of the face. We knew the hairstyle from the coroner's report. It was a raggedy, dirty, blonde kind of thing. All the hair was with the skeleton. It doesn't decay like flesh does. We knew the victim's age, which helps with the skin tone and weight. A coroner can give you an accurate approximation of race, size, build, and especially weight, which is determined from the pull of the ligaments on the bones. By having a sense of how much she weighed, I knew how fat her face would be. The forensic guys, however, were shocked. They pulled a missing person photo from the files and put it next to my drawing. I was astounded. The computer creation looked like the real girl. The skeleton was identified as a Toronto prostitute named Joanne Philippou, who'd been missing since 1987. There was no trace of the cause of death left over, so how she died will probably never be known unless someone comes forward. But at least we had identified her. We started looking around for other uses for the system and decided to test it on something only an artist could do: erase the disguise of a bank robber. In June of 1987, I was provided with a bank surveillance photo of a robber called the Halloween Bandit. It showed a white male wearing a white golf cap, sunglasses that covered half his face, and a full mustache, which may or may not have been false. Using a stylus, I removed the cap and glasses by overlaying the surrounding gray tones, thus erasing the unwanted parts. The mustache was also removed in some alternate drawings, and generic eyes were substituted for the glasses. We also brought out 2 moles that were on the face. 2 weeks later, investigators sent me a photo that was similar to one of the composites. I digitized it and put both shots on the screen for comparison. The facial features matched. The chance that any 2 people could have the same 2 moles in the same 2 places was extremely remote. The suspect was arrested and pled guilty on a number of counts. He was sentenced to life in prison. And as we gain experience and learn from the captured suspects, we are finding that no matter what lengths the criminal may go to in attempting to hide his identity, the computer, in the hands of a skilled artist, can unmask him. In one case, a fraud artist was using stolen bank cards to make withdrawals from his victims' accounts. All we had to work from was a single profile shot taken from a poorly placed camera at an automated teller. The suspect was also bent over, further obscuring his features by doubling his chin. We went to work detailing the profile and enhancing it. This became the wanted poster that was distributed and eventually recognized by a bank inspector in Calgary. We were able to obtain a mugshot of the suspect from the Calgary police, which was compared with the original photograph. The pattern of the ears, which are as unique as fingerprints, matched perfectly. The fraud artist was arrested and sentenced to 4 years in prison. On the afternoon of January 23rd, 1983, 9-year-old Sharon Morningstar Keenan disappeared from a park near her parents' home. Over the next week, police mounted the largest manhunt in the city's history to find her. But 9 days later, her body was found in an abandoned apartment near the park. She had been raped, strangled, and stuffed in a refrigerator. The tenant of the apartment, who had disappeared at around the same time as the little girl, was identified as a beer-drinking drifter named Dennis Melvin Howe. A 1979 mugshot of him was issued at the time and distributed across the country, but no trace of him was found. In 1989, I aged Dennis Melvin Howe's photo, taking into account statements by witnesses at the time who said that Howe was not heavyset, but was thinner in appearance. I redrew the photo, taking some weight off his face and aging his photo as well as raising his hairline. He was 5 foot 9 inches, with brown eyes and receding gray-brown hair. His teeth were yellow and decaying, with a gap between the front 2. He had a bulbous nose, a scar on his chin, and crooked baby fingers. He had a hairy chest and arms, walked with a quick, jerky step, and had a loud, braying laugh. He was left-handed, liked country music, drank beer, was a chain smoker who liked to line up the butts of his cigarettes in neat military rows. Like the previous mugshots, the aged enhanced photo was distributed across North America, but despite a standing reward of $100,000 for information leading to his capture, no trace of him has been found.
If you have any information leading to the arrest and conviction of Dennis Melvin Howe, please contact your local police or the Toronto Police at 416-324-6100.
Today, law enforcement agencies from around the world come to us for help in solving crimes and helping recover missing children. I don't know what percentage of missing children are reunited with their parents, but I've done about 70 children, and we found 7. That may not sound like very good odds, but without the aged photos, we wouldn't even have found those 7. The potential for future uses of the CARE system is enormous, and we continue to explore new areas with it every day. I'm not out there locking people up, but with a weapon like CARES, I'm proud that I can contribute a little to the battle against crime and in helping find lost children.
We'll be right back with tonight's Top Cops and the aftermaths of their stories. For her work work in the development and use of the CARES system, Betty Clark was awarded a civilian citation by the Toronto Police Commission. It reads in part, for outstanding services and unselfish assistance to the Metropolitan Toronto Police in the preservation of peace and order. She continues to serve as a civilian member of the Metropolitan Toronto Police Department.